Hello and welcome to Rolling Out Sisters with Superpowers. I'm your host, Portia Monique, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Miss Codie Elaine Oliver. She's the CEO and founder of Black Love Incorporated, which is a fast-growing media company comprising of Black Love at Black Love Podcast Network, blacklove.com, Black Love's social and digital platforms, and of course, her live and virtual events, including the Black Love Summit, which we will get to in a second. She just had that in October of 2023, as well as Black Love Honors. Now, let me tell you guys about the Sisters with Superpowers, because that is exactly what she is. She hosts 2 podcasts. She's also the director and co-creator of the groundbreaking 5-time NAACP Image Awards nominated docuseries Black Love. And that also premiered as the most viewed unscripted series in OWN's history. It also wrapped its 6th and final season, but she's also a mother, a wife, a sister, a friend, someone that is very inspirational in this entertainment industry. Dare I say, she's a 4th generation Howard alum. Okay, HBCU in the building. Welcome to the show, Miss Codie Elaine Oliver.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's winter. It's winter here in the D, and our infamous song, it's so cold
in the D. Yes, I know.
It's so cold in the D. But how are you doing in sunny LA? You're in LA, right?
I am.
Yeah.
I'm good. I can't complain. It is cold in the morning, and by 3 o'clock it's 85, which is really ridiculous. But yeah, I just went through a season of my kids' birthdays, my birthday, the Black Love Summit, a lot of really good transition in our company of new people coming in. I'm just excited for what's to come.
I love it. It reeks of purpose, right? So let's go ahead and get started with your journey in creating Black Love. What inspired you to start the venture? And again, congratulations on the big 4-0. Not only do you make it look amazing, you make it look effortless, right? And sometimes that's not easy to do. But briefly describe your journey on what the inspiration was behind creating Black Love and all of your companies.
Yeah, the inspiration really started with the quote unquote Black marriage crisis and these horrible headlines that we were reading back in 2005 through 2010 that were saying that Black women are undesirable and swiped left on the apps and that Black people weren't staying married as long as everybody else. The reality of that was both the headlines were damaging enough. It made my friends bitter and hopeless, for lack of better description. That's really what we were. But that little bit of hope in me was but this can't be true, right? It can't, I can't not find my forever in a partner just because the statistics say supposedly I can't. Ultimately, I learned that really the Black people over-index in being in lower income households, and money and lower income families are more likely to get divorced. Money is one of the bigger issues in marriage. And so when our community over-indexes in lower income households, the statistics say that we don't stay married when it's actually financially driven. So I'm just debunking that particular myth. But what it did ultimately was just make me say, I don't want to believe what these headlines are saying. I want to hear from people, and I want to create a place where Black love stories live. And it was important to me for those to be romantic love stories, but I also knew that I was tired of seeing stories about parenting and pregnancy and friendship and womanhood, etc., told through a white lens. It doesn't mean it doesn't, shouldn't exist, but I'm reading Glamour and whatever other magazines, and I'm not seeing enough of me. So, I had the idea, fast forward many years, to meeting Tommy, my husband, who was a cinematographer, producer, director, and we decided to create the docuseries Black Love. But we also knew that we wanted to extend I don't know if we said brand back then, but we wanted to extend the storytelling to include all those other forms of love, parenting and family, etc. Self-love being critical, as we got to understand more and more when we're interviewing couples. And it's what's the crux of the issue that you had? oh, your past trauma or your, biases and thinking that you're not worthy. And so once we realized like how critical self-love was in the journey to any relationship, romantic or otherwise, that was very clear that was a big pillar for us as well. So that's how it all started.
Wonderful. Now, I do want to ask you, did you see Black love modeled in your home?
I saw it in all of the non-romantic ways. I had wonderful parents who got divorced when I was 11 or 12.
Okay.
And I spent the next decade trying to understand, well, like, what does marriage take? I don't understand why they didn't make it.
Right.
And I had a lot of other aunts and uncles and such that weren't married or got divorced. My grandparents were married forever, but
right.
As we all know, we don't always pass those stories down.
Mm-hmm.
And as I know now, as a 40-year-old person who's interviewed over 200 couples, not only that, but the older generation had different reasons for getting married. You know what I mean? Not to say they weren't in love, but there was a time women couldn't open a bank account without being married. So there were reasons for these things, and we have to really investigate every day.
Yeah.
What is marriage? What does it require? Why am I in it? Why do I want it? And really think about that and show up with the understanding of why you're there, why you want to be there if you're not married.
Yeah, and I wanted to also touch on not only different reasons for getting married, but certainly different reasons for staying married.
Yeah,
especially during that era in time. So let's move on. But as this is Sisters with Superpowers, I would be remiss if I did not ask you what you consider your superpower to be. I have an inkling of what I think you're gonna say, but I'm tossing the ball to you. What do you?
Oh, wait, I'm so curious. I feel like
of course. Okay. No, you go ahead.
I'm gonna tell you what I think my superpower is, and I honestly think it is my transparency and my desire for transparency. I feel like I am doing what I'm doing and have had, some amount of success in it because I really want to see people. I really want to understand people. And I also want to share the imperfection behind anything, right? Marriage in particular, right, is a thing that people idolize, or at least used to. I don't really know the temperature right now, but it's been a thing that people idolize. Like, oh, if you're married X number of years, that's beautiful and amazing. It might be, but it also may have come with, hard lessons and loss and grief and highs and lows. And so I use marriage as an example, but the same is true of our parent-child relationships and our sisterhoods. Okay.
Yeah.
And so to look at the things that seem ideal or easy and to ask but really, what did it take? I think that's my superpower. I think I'm passionate about it. And I also work to share my own transparency because it's like, okay, cute. Let me tell you how I did these curls this morning. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what it is. I'm gonna tell you how we got there.
Yeah. It's not always champagne and bubbly and cute and pretty. So we definitely get that. And like you said, I know for my family history, for the women or for the couples that have been married for 30 plus years, that's always been my dream, right? So I'm like, I'm looking for my 30 plus years. I'm looking to create that, that legacy, that memory, that foundation. And when I asked the women in my family, okay, you made it to 30 years. And they were like, it wasn't all berries and cake. It wasn't always pretty. And so it made me think that, maybe it's not all it's cracked up to be. I'm still searching for my 30 years though, because I do want that foundation, no matter what, but I do know that it's going to take a lot more work than just surface, than just, agreeing and being submissive and all of that.
And it's also not as though you just find them and get married and then great, next thing you blink and 30 years have gone by. It's day-to-day work. Yeah. It's
real work. You got to put in the real work.
Yeah.
Give get back to Black Love, right? So you just had your Black Love Summit, October 2023. Let's talk about it because, of course, you have a powerful platform. It celebrates love and connection in the Black community. How do you envision that impact in promoting unity and real resilience, especially in today's world of divisiveness and uncertainty?
Yeah, I mean, we honestly try to create a space that is safe and where the conversations range from, like I mentioned, self-love to partnership with and everything in between. We talked about mental health and wellness and what does that look like? And that was a conversation that was presented in partnership with Taraji's Boris L. Henson Foundation, right, which prioritizes mental health. We talked about financial wellness and what it means to make an impact and make money, right? And that was in partnership with Chase, with JP Morgan Chase. And we had Ryan Wilson, the founder of The Gathering Spot, talking with Carrie Hilson about entrepreneurship. So it's like bringing together all of these different voices that sometimes you're like, well, how is that Black love? Well, taking care of your bank account, taking care of your present and your future, that is Black love. That is self-love. Mm-hmm. That is how you manage wellness. Mm-hmm. So then extend that over to mental health, because if you ain't got your money right, then your mind not gonna be right. And sometimes if you ain't got your money right, you still have to find ways to keep your mind right. Yeah. And so I think frankly, we're dealing with so much, and our traumas and our strengths and weaknesses show up in all the things that we want to accomplish, and we have to figure out how to juggle and manage that and show up as our best selves. Mm-hmm. So Black love, through all of the content that we do, whether it's a digital series, whether it's a live event, whether it's a social media campaign, we're trying to constantly remind our community, like, you are worthy, but you can't ignore what you don't like. Right. Or what's not serving you. Even what's not serving you. If you want to walk away, cool, but you have to make a conscious decision. Mm-hmm. And you can't just sit back and assume that every relationship is just going to sustain itself. Right. The work that's required to have the best possible relationships and to thrive in life is self-work. Yeah. So we just create safe spaces for these conversations. And so that's what we've done. That was the 6th Black Love Summit that we did in October.
Oh, I love it, love it, love it. So for the 6th, let's talk about that incredible lineup of speakers that you had. So you just mentioned Carrie Hilson, of course, Ryan, the Gathering Spot, he was there as well. Share some of your memorable moments or insights from that event, particularly that included some of your incredible speakers.
Yeah, I am very fortunate to have gotten to know KJ Smith and Sky Black over the last year or so. Mm-hmm. We have someone who works with us who is good friends with them, so we've just been around each other for a while now, and every time I'm around them, I just love them more and more. Mm-hmm. And I use them as an example because one of the things that they're recently married, they got married, I think about 2 months ago.
It was all over social media.
Yes, it was. And what I love about them, number one, is just how they live and love out loud. They have found their match in one another. But Sky was sharing a story, just going even back to finances. It's about finances, but also about vulnerability. He was sharing a story about, like, as a man, he felt like he's got to be the provider, and that is a financial role. And when he met KJ and she had been on a successful show, he was nervous to tell her, like, my bank account don't look like yours. And ultimately she said, I know. And he was like, what? And she was like, I mean, I know how much I make on my show, and you was a guest star. So, I mean, this is out of his mouth, right?
As women, we know, but keep going.
Yes. But ultimately his point was that it took him he was very nervous to say anything about it. It took him being vulnerable and sharing that with her, and sharing that, like, he wasn't even that great with money, for her to share her lessons and her growth practices and to truly show up as a partner. And to me, that was a wonderful moment, because it really just speaks to, like, being vulnerable in relationships, no matter if it is romantic or otherwise, and really being able to say, like, where you are weak and somebody else may be strong. And so that stands out to me right now. Yeah. The wellness conversation honestly was incredible with Ty Beauchamp, who runs Morning Mindset, and Sheila Marie, who is Ace Hood's wife and also runs her own wellness platform, as well as Inatan Barriola, who's an entrepreneur. And I mean, I love all of them because they really not only wear their hearts on their sleeve, but they really work hard to show people what wellness looks like. And I'm trying to remember the exact quote that Sheila said, but I want to say it was wellness looks like, I want to say trusting yourself, but I think she worded it better. I think it was, not betraying yourself. Wellness is not betraying yourself. Because there's a lot of things that we'll show up and do that aren't in our best interest. And that begins to carry weight and be a burden. And so it was an interesting way to put it. And so I that was a conversation that I think I really appreciated. And I'll say one more. So we also did a little matchmaking moment. It wasn't just a dating sitch like we wanted it to be, but it required, there was, we made it more of a meet someone new, as well as we're going to give you some tools for vulnerability so that when you are out at the club and you want to ask questions, you want to, just break that first layer, like we have, some icebreakers. And we did it in partnership with Nina Westbrook's Do Tell card game. So she's a card game that asks these questions that, show some vulnerability. So get the card game if you've never heard of it. Do Tell is what it's called. So I forgot what the question was. I think it was like, maybe what's your first thought in the morning? No, what's the greatest lesson you learned this year? We asked our audience. And one woman stood up and she said, they talked to each other. We made everyone talk to each other. And then we made them share their answers. And she stood up and she said that the greatest lesson she learned this year was that she wasn't the only person who doesn't have it all figured out. And number one, just like her own vulnerability and transparency, hearing that. But then I was like, okay, everybody raise your hand.
Right.
You can relate to this statement. And of course, it's like everyone's hands are up in the air. And so that's a really memorable moment too, that a lot of people spoke to me about after as well, because we all are sitting here trying to look a certain way for the gram or think that we have to be here, there, or somewhere else by this time, by this age, by this date. And the reality is we're all on this journey. We're all on this journey. And the more that we can share our tips and tricks and our real, I think the better off we'll all be.
Yeah. And, thank you so much for sharing that, because it just gives us a peek inside the dynamic that was going on during your summit. And it makes me think, where can I see the rest of it?
Yes. Okay. Very good question. So, of course, we're sharing clips on our Black Love socials. Yeah. But I'm going to throw out, you can watch on Thanksgiving. On the Black Love Plus app, which is free. Go ahead and download it if you don't have it. But you can watch on Thanksgiving, and soon after you can watch on Black Love's YouTube channel as well.
Love that. Okay, so we got so much to talk about because you're such an incredible person, amazing journey, and you got it all figured out, right? Wife, mama, daughter.
All figured out, yes.
So you wear many hats as an entrepreneur, podcaster, director, more. Congratulations on your film. It debuted at ABFF 23. I was there for The Perfect Find with Gabrielle Union. That was beautiful, right? And then you also have an upcoming film, Young, Wild, and Free, starring Sanaa Lathan. So how do you balance all of your different roles? What drives your passion for each of them?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is that, with Tommy, my husband, as my partner, that we can definitely divide and conquer. So what I will say about Young, Wild, Free in particular, he's the day-to-day producer on that movie. So the reality of what that movie looked like is Tommy was actually he was producing 2 feature films at the same time last September, while I was at home with the children, also working, of course, with Black Love, but those 2 movies that he made, one was in Oklahoma and Young, Wild, Free was here. And he was going back and forth between the 2 cities. And we had night shoots for Young, Wild, Free. And my job outside of the day-to-day of Black Love was also, taking care of our kids. So with those 2, that's what that looked like. With The Perfect Find, that was a couple of years ago that we shot that. And we all went to New Jersey.
Cute.
Me and Tommy and the kids. And so it's just different depending on the project,
Yeah.
really, how
Yeah.
we show up and how we get it done.
Yeah. And The Perfect Fine, I love that movie, by the way. Got a chance to talk to Numa about it as well. It was great. Like, I love traditional love stories. Not traditional. I love non-traditional love stories. Because they just kind of open up your eyes to, damn, somebody else going through that.
Yes. Yes. And it was actually, inspired by a true story. The couple didn't end up together, but the author of the book had a little affair. Oh, I shouldn't say affair, but a little fling, with someone that she worked with after a bad breakup and some other things. And so that's what the book was about.
Yeah. And they were younger.
Yes, he was younger. Yep.
Now, going back to your husband, right? So does working with your husband pose a challenge for your love life? How do you manage it all? Personal time, self-care, being an on-demand mom of 3 children under 6, wife, business owner, girlfriend, mentor, coach, so much more. How do you manage that?
Yeah. It does pose a challenge. An ongoing one, in that we have had to just learn and evolve and discuss and update, right? Because we had kids really quickly too after we got married. And so we went from married to parents of 1 to parents of 3. And with each kid came additional responsibilities, in addition to that heart tug, right? Like that mom guilt that creeps in that some dads say they don't relate to.
Right.
And so it's definitely a challenge, but like I said, we have to constantly stay in touch and discuss where my head is in particular, right? And so, like I said, pros and cons, because we can also be tackling a project that is ours, that he's doing the day-to-day on, and I'm doing the day-to-day at home.
Yeah.
So it's really just talking about what those sacrifices are going to be as we make them, or as opportunities come along. I will say, we have another film coming up that is in theaters now, which is a documentary called Going to Mars, the Nikki Giovanni Project. And that premiered at Sundance earlier this year with Young, Wild, Free. And in theaters briefly, November and maybe a little December. And then it will be on HBO in January. So definitely check that one out too, because
give us the name again.
It's called Going to Mars, the Nikki Giovanni Project. It's all about Nikki Giovanni. So if you remember nothing else, just remember that part.
Right. Going to Mars, the Nikki Giovanni Project. Okay, wonderful. We are looking forward to that. We need something to do around Thanksgiving anyway. So guys, go to the theaters, check it out. Because like I said, I could talk to you all day about all of the amazing things that you're doing, but I want to talk to you about being an HBCU grad, right? So as a 4th generation, Howard University, HU, I'm not that, so I'm not going to fake like I am, but a lot of my girlfriends attended Howard, and I know the chant. So HU.
HU.
Oh.
Well, you say, bye, son. There you go.
HU. Let me do it. Bye, son.
All
right. Okay, I love it. Strong connection, of course, to Howard, right? So how has your education and experiences there influenced your career and the work that you do today?
Oh, man. I would say it's a combination of my experiences there and my experiences growing up in a HBCU/Howard family. So because it all kind of blends together at a certain point, but I'm a person who grew up knowing that I'm Black, that my community comes first in the world for me, and that we have to give back and we have to take care of each other. And so, I grew up in a house where we buy Black art, we eat at Black restaurants, we just make it a priority to support our community at every step. And so I think going to Howard was honestly just like tripling down on that. And wanting to tell our stories and wanting to see more of us has just been in me. But I would say actually being at Howard and not knowing what am I going to do career wise, right? You go into college, you might think but you're exploring.
Wow.
I would just say that Howard gave me, my professional confidence.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I think it all blends together, right? My family's like, you can do anything. And then I go to Howard and it's like, you can do anything. So, but I would say that Howard not only prepared me professionally for everything that was to come, but also Howard gave me my long relationships. I certainly have friends that I had before college, but so many of my long-term relationships came from that time.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I would say that's true of all HBCUs, right? So probably all college experiences, but especially for HBCUs, because we tend to cherish and keep in touch with and, go visit and all of those type of things. So I'm also an HBCU graduate, Grambling State University, where everybody is somebody, right?
Yeah.
But and, as being a part of the HBCU culture, we're just a part of a special group of people. We understand the assignment in terms of giving back, and in terms of nurturing, in terms of support and all of that. And you're doing a job of it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. A couple more questions. As a mother of 3 boys, how do you want to, and what do you want to impart into your children through your work and your achievements? What do you hope to impart?
Honestly, I feel like number 1 is going to be who they are, like really believing that they can do anything. I've always wanted to instill in them, instill that in them so that no one can ever take it away, that it comes from them and not from me. Right. I tell them, we work to remind them like who they are and that their skin, their hair, their community is beautiful. But we also try to make sure they're surrounded by images of themselves reflected back, from cartoons to TV and movies to books, and just make sure that there's never a lack of seeing themselves, so that they know to call it out when there is.
Yeah.
And to never feel othered because they are used to seeing themselves reflected.
I love that. Yeah, making sure that they can see themselves in a positive light in everything, right? So not only TV, movies, of course, because you guys are producers, directors of those, and you can make sure that you do those, but just in the little things, like you said, the art in your home. So that reflection is huge. And last question. I just want to know, when it comes to aspiring entrepreneurs, whether they want to be the producers, the directors, media companies or whatnot, what advice do you have for them in terms of going after their dreams, chasing dreams?
I mean, I would say what comes to mind is honestly just staying authentic to yourself. Anything that you choose to do that is authentic and organic to you, you will, I would say, be able to stick with, right? I mean, it's kind of the advice you get when you first go to film school, right? You don't just pick a movie because like, oh, that's a cool movie, I want to work on that. The amount of time that it takes to put something on the big screen, or the amount of time it takes to build a media company, you have to really know why you're doing it. You have to love it and live with it for years. And that isn't to say that people can't pivot in life, but if that's your goal, then you have to recognize that in order to get to that goal, that you're going to be with it for a long time. And it's there will be highs and there will be lows, and there will be times where it feels like it's not possible to continue. And you have to really figure out what to do at crossroads like that, because they will come.
Yeah. And of course, the film school that you attended was USC. Yeah. Wonderful. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Codie. Tell the good people where they can follow you, follow your journey, look at all of your films, make sure that they're supporting you, all of those amazing things.
Yeah. Well, my journey, probably on Instagram, Codie Co, CODIECO, but all things Black Love at Black Love on Instagram, Black Love Inc. on TikTok. We have the Black Love Plus app, and of course, blacklove.com.
Love it. That wasn't a pun, y'all. I do love it. Codie, it's been a pleasure. Thank
you.